Liam Walker was an ordinary 13-year-old boy, passionate about skateboarding and known for cruising daily through the quiet streets of this mountain-surrounded town. But on one cold afternoon, while crossing the Maroon Creek Bridge, Liam mysteriously vanished without leaving a single trace behind. 12 years later, in September of 2021, a gardener working on the grounds of an old local mansion made a shocking discovery, one that would unravel secrets Aspen never expected. What really happened to Liam that afternoon? And what exactly did the gardener find buried on that property? Aspen, Colorado, September 2009. The cold morning air gently bit at Liam Walker's skin as he coasted down the silent streets on his bright red skateboard. At 13, every day felt like a small personal challenge, and although the morning was unusually cold, for him, it was perfect. Aspen slowly awakened between tall trees, charming houses and mountains that seemed to reach the sky. Liam always cherished these solitary moments, skating while the rest of the world still slept. Under the worn-out soles of his sneakers, the wheels of the board echoed softly against the pavement, creating a rhythm that soothed his thoughts. When he reached Maroon Creek Park, he rolled to a slow stop, pulled a small black marker from his pocket, and with a focused expression, sat on a nearby bench. Carefully, he flipped his board over and began drawing something on the red wooden underside. "Drawing your weird stuff again?" came a sudden voice, breaking the silence. It was Hannah, his older sister, with a smile that was half teasing, half tender. She was 4 years older and had a unique way of saying important things disguised as jokes. "They're not weird," Liam replied, quickly covering the sketch with his hands. "They're private." "Come on, let me see," she said, sitting beside him and gently pulling his fingers away. "You always keep everything to yourself, Liam." He sighed and slowly moved his hand, revealing a simple yet meaningful drawing. 2 stick figures holding hands on a thin line, probably meant to be a bridge. One of them was tilting downward, holding on desperately. "What does it mean?" Hannah asked, her tone shifting to concern. "Just weird dreams I've been having. It's nothing important." Hannah looked at him with affection and wrapped her arm around his shoulder, pulling him close. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" Liam nodded but avoided eye contact. He wanted to explain more, to tell her about the strange therapy sessions with Dr. Bennett, about how uncomfortable he felt sometimes, but he stopped himself. "She won't get it. She'll think I'm overreacting," he thought. "I'm fine," he said, quickly changing the subject. "I've got a session today. I better go or I'll be late." "Want me to come with you?" Hannah offered, noticing his distracted expression. "I'm good, Hannah, really." She hesitated but eventually nodded. "Okay, but don't forget what Mom always says. Don't stay out too late. And watch that damn curve before the bridge." Liam stood up quickly, grabbed his board, and kicked off down the road. "I promise," he yelled back. The image of Hannah waving goodbye stayed etched in his mind with a strange heaviness, as if some part of him knew it would be the last time he'd ever see her like that. The office of Dr. Oliver Bennett always had a strange smell, somewhere between old paper and expensive cologne. Liam hated it. Sitting on the leather couch, he nervously bounced his legs, silently wishing the session would end soon. Across from him, Dr. Bennett observed with his usual polite smile, one that always struck Liam as fake. "Liam, you've seemed more anxious lately. Do you want to talk about it?" He gently shook his head. "I'm fine. Just tired," he replied, eyes fixed on his hands. "You know you can trust me. Everything we discuss here is completely confidential." Liam remained quiet. "Confidential like my drawings," he thought bitterly. The session dragged on for another half hour. Dr. Bennett tried multiple times to get the boy to open up, but it was useless. When it finally ended, Liam left with an unsettling pressure in his chest, a feeling that he had left something important unsaid. On the walk home, his mind drifted between blurred images, the sketches beneath his skateboard, Hannah's worried face, and the eerie calm of Dr. Bennett. Why hadn't he been able to say anything? He picked up his pace, trying to shake off the thoughts. The cold wind hit his face, bringing a little clarity back. As he neared the curve just before the massive Maroon Creek Bridge, Hannah's words echoed in his mind. "Be careful on that." "Damn curve!" The Walker family's phone rang around 7 that evening, shattering the household's calm. "Hello," answered Marie Walker, Liam's mother. "Mrs. Walker, this is Officer Amanda Miller from the Aspen Police Department. Is your son Liam home right now?" A freezing silence fell over the room. "No, not yet." "Why? What happened?" "We received a call reporting a red skateboard found abandoned near Maroon Creek Bridge. Could it belong to your son?" A sharp chill spread through Marie's chest. Yes, it's his. What's going on? Where is Liam?" The officer took a breath. "That's exactly what we're trying to find out. Your son appears to be missing." The news spread through Aspen like wildfire, turning the peaceful town into a boiling pot of fear. Rescue teams, volunteers, and worried family members began combing the areas around the bridge in a desperate search. Hannah, unable to sit still, looked for clues on her own. She clutched her journal tightly to her chest as if it might give her answers. Days passed with no signs. Even the red skateboard wasn't confirmed. It was still just a rumor. That only made things worse. "He has to be out there somewhere," Hannah repeated as she paced along the riverbank. "Liam wouldn't just vanish like that." The Roaring Fork River seemed to whisper secrets she couldn't quite make out. What really happened that afternoon? In the middle of all the chaos and uncertainty, a phone call to the station suddenly shifted the direction of the investigation. It was a woman's voice, shaky and low. "I need to talk to someone about Liam Walker," she whispered. "Who is this?" asked Officer Amanda Miller. The voice cracked slightly. "I can't say right now. I saw something strange near Dr. Bennett's house that same night." "You have to look into it." The call ended abruptly, leaving Officer Miller stunned and on high alert. Officer Miller wasted no time. She immediately contacted the Walkers to share the lead. Hannah felt a rush of both hope and dread. Dr. Bennett? What could he have to do with this? Dr. Oliver Bennett was well known throughout town, not just a respected psychologist, but an admired community figure. To think he might be involved seemed absurd, but that anonymous voice kept echoing in her mind. In the living room, Marie Walker looked desperately at her daughter, searching for reassurance. "Do you think Bennett could—" She couldn't even finish the thought. Hannah clutched her journal tighter against her chest and shook her head slowly. "I don't know, Mom, but we have to find out who made that call and why they mentioned his house." One thing was clear. To both of them, something dark might be hiding behind the respect Aspen had for Dr. Bennett. That night, Hannah Walker couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, she slowly opened her journal and began writing with a trembling hand. "I don't know what to think anymore. Bennett seemed trustworthy, but now everything feels wrong. What is he hiding? Why didn't Liam ever tell us anything? What if that anonymous call is the only real lead we have left to find him?" As she wrote, a cold certainty clung to her heart. The answers they were looking for might be closer than she'd ever imagined, and far more painful than anyone could bear. Elsewhere in Aspen, hidden in the dark, the woman who had made the anonymous call looked nervously out her window, wondering if she'd done the right thing by speaking up. She knew her silence had lasted too long. Now, finally, she had broken that unspoken pact. But what would happen when the full truth came out? Sunlight filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the freshly cut grass. It was a warm morning in September 2021, but Thomas Reeve felt a chill crawling up his spine, one that had nothing to do with the weather. He exhaled slowly, pulling on his old gardening gloves as he looked out over the wide estate. Thomas was a tall man in his mid-60s, with neatly combed gray hair and faded blue eyes. For decades, he had maintained Aspen's most elegant gardens, but none ever unsettled him like this one. He had returned, after many years, to Dr. Oliver Bennett's old mansion, now sold to a young couple who wanted to plant rose bushes around a large oak tree. That same oak where, 12 years earlier, Bennett had once silently watched him work from the study window. Each morning, Thomas lined up his tools in perfect order on the grass, always ascending in size. It was a calming ritual, something that kept his nerves in check. As he pressed the shovel into the soil, something resisted, something that interrupted the clean movement of the blade. He frowned. Rocks, he thought, kneeling to get a better look. But as he leaned in, his eyes caught a faded red glint beneath the dirt. Heart pounding, unsure why, he dug carefully with his hands until it came fully into view. A worn red skateboard, its underside still marked with faded drawings, simple, childlike lines. The memory hit him like a hammer. That September day in 2009, when all of Aspen was searching for young Liam Walker. Thomas remembered him clearly. He used to pass by the Bennett mansion with that very skateboard on his way to therapy sessions. But why? Why was it buried here in Bennett's garden? Thomas felt his blood turn cold. He glanced around nervously, half expecting someone to be watching. He recalled Bennett's calm but distant expression as he'd stared out the window, and Eleanor's quiet, withdrawn demeanor. He had barely spoken to either of them over the years. Thomas had always preferred distance, the safety of silence. But now, that silence felt suffocating. Without another thought, he grabbed his phone and dialed the police. Aspen Sheriff's Office. How can we help you? Thomas swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. This is Thomas Reeve. I'm the gardener at the old Bennett estate. I just found something in the yard that I think you need to see. Within minutes, sirens echoed down the quiet streets of Aspen. Officer Amanda Miller stepped out of the patrol car, concern etched across her face, followed by 2 additional officers. Mr. Reeve, I'm Officer Miller. Can you show us what you found? With a trembling hand, Thomas pointed to the skateboard. As the investigators began taking photos and notes, he stepped back, feeling something long buried begin to rise inside him. His mind drifted back to 2009, to the strange behavior Dr. Bennett displayed in the weeks after Liam vanished. The man had always been formal, but that fall, he'd asked Thomas more than once if he'd seen anything unusual around the house. And then there was Eleanor, never meeting his eyes, constantly cleaning surfaces with an obsessive urgency, as if trying to erase something deeper than just dust. Mr. Reeve, Miller's voice pulled him back. We need to ask you a few questions. Thomas nodded, cold sweat on his palms. Do you remember seeing Liam Walker around here in those days? Or anything strange related to Dr. Bennett? Thomas looked away for a moment. Liam used to come by on his way to therapy with the doctor, but I never noticed anything out of the ordinary. Bennett was private. We didn't talk much. And Eleanor? Did she ever mention anything to you? No. She always seemed nervous, but I figured that was just her nature, he said softly, not daring to speak his true suspicions. Miller studied him. Thank you, Mr. Reeve. We'll be in touch if we need anything else. Alone again, Thomas felt guilt crush his chest. He had been a coward all those years, ignoring the things he sensed. How many lives could have been different if I had just spoken up? Across town, Hannah Walker gently closed the journal she had kept since the day her brother vanished. Now, nearly 30, she worked as a journalist in Denver, but emotionally, she had never really left that September afternoon behind. Her obsession with Liam's case had consumed much of her youth, her notebooks filled with frantic theories and timelines of what might have happened. The call about the skateboard being found at Bennett's old property had reopened wounds she thought had long since scarred over. Her parents couldn't bear to relive the pain, but she felt like maybe, finally, there was a real chance to understand what had happened. She reopened the journal and with steady hands wrote, September 15th, 2021, they found Liam's skateboard buried at Dr. Bennett's house. Why there? I have to know. I'm going back to Aspen. The following morning, police began searching the Bennett residence for additional evidence. From a distance, Thomas Reeve watched the scene. Nervous as yellow tape was strung across the yard. Each box the officers removed from the house felt like it peeled something hidden off his soul, like layers of fear and shame he'd buried along with that board. The mansion, now empty and hollow, looked more sinister than ever. Officer Miller and her team moved carefully through each room, searching for anything that could reveal what had happened. Eventually, they reached Dr. Bennett's study. The walls were lined with antique books on psychology and human behavior. While scanning the shelves, Miller noticed something odd. One book slightly out of place, pushed forward. With caution, she pulled it free, revealing a small hidden compartment. Behind it, she reached in slowly and removed an old leather-bound journal, worn and cracked from age. A strange electric chill ran through her fingertips. The cover bore only the initials, O.B., Oliver Bennett. She turned to her team, her heartbeat rising. "Looks like Dr. Bennett's personal journal," she said heavily, not yet opening it. "This could be important. We should read it right away," one of the investigators said. "No, not here," Miller replied, unsettled. "We'll take it to the station." As they left the study with the journal sealed in an evidence bag, Thomas watched them through the garden window, anxiety etched across his face. He sensed what might be inside that book. He had suspected things he had never dared admit even to himself. The past was returning, like a quiet storm rolling over the hills of Aspen. Back at the police station, Amanda Miller sat alone with the journal on her desk. She hesitated for a moment, fingers resting on the leather cover. Something inside told her that these pages held more than personal notes. It felt like the key to unraveling the darkest mystery Aspen had ever faced. She exhaled deeply and opened the cover. In the small, dimly lit interrogation room, Officer Amanda Miller sat across from Detective Marcus Flores. Between them lay the worn journal of Dr. Oliver Bennett. "Ready?" Marcus asked, barely hiding his impatience. "As ready as we'll ever be," Miller replied, flipping the cover open. Inside were yellowing pages filled with messy notes, scribbled names, dates, and fragmented thoughts. At first glance, it looked like a mixture of session summaries and personal ramblings. But soon, Amanda spotted something chilling. "Look here," she said, pointing to a name underlined in thick black ink. "Liam Walker." Marcus leaned in. "It says unofficial session," Amanda continued, her voice tightening. "Why wouldn't he log this in his professional records?" They exchanged a heavy silence. "Maybe because he didn't want anyone to know," Marcus whispered. As they flipped through more pages, more names appeared. Teenagers from the community, all under unofficial session headings. Next to them, disturbing notes, references to experimental methods, emotional testing, and unsettling descriptions of control techniques. Elsewhere in Aspen, Eleanor Bennett sat at the edge of her couch, rubbing her hands anxiously with a damp towel for what must have been the 10th time that hour. Though she was only 30, Eleanor looked much older. The weight of her father's secrets had left deep marks on her face, on her mind, on her spirit. Her apartment was spotless, always was. She cleaned constantly, trying to scrub away the invisible stains of guilt and fear. Then her phone rang. "Hello? Eleanor, this is Officer Amanda Miller with the Aspen Police Department. We need to speak with you about your father." Eleanor's heartbeat spiked. "What's going on?" "We've recovered your father's personal journal," Amanda said firmly. "Were you aware of any undocumented sessions with underage patients?" Eleanor gasped, her lungs tightening. She closed her eyes, her father's cold expression flashing in her mind. "I never knew exactly what he did during those sessions," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't want to know." Amanda's tone softened. "We need you to come to the station. This is important." Eleanor nodded, even though Amanda couldn't see her. "I'll come. Later today." She ended the call and stared at the phone, nauseous. Repressed memories began to surface, like shadows breaking through cracks she had sealed. Long ago, in a quiet Denver cafe, Hannah Walker sat across from a young man whose face was both familiar and worn by the years. "Thanks for meeting with me, Josh," she said, jotting notes into her leather-bound notebook. "I need to know if you remember anything else about the night Liam disappeared." Josh, once Liam's closest friend, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I've told you everything I know, Hannah." "I don't remember much from that night. Please, Josh." Her voice was almost a plea. "Think carefully." Every detail matters. He sighed and closed his eyes. For years he had avoided this. But as he focused, a vague, haunting image surfaced in his memory. There was a car, he said softly, eyes suddenly opening wide. Yeah, a black car, parked right in front of the Bennett mansion. I remember seeing someone pull Liam inside. Hannah froze, her heart pounding. Why didn't you ever tell anyone? That? I don't know. Maybe I was scared, or I forgot, or wanted to forget. But now I'm sure, Hannah. Liam got into a car that night, right outside Bennett's house. She scribbled furiously, her hands trembling with adrenaline. I have to go back to Aspen, she whispered. This changes everything. A few hours later, Hannah had packed her things and was already on the road. The entire drive, her mind raced with Josh's words. Who took Liam into that car? Why in front of Bennett's mansion? She knew deep down the answer was far worse than anything she'd imagined. As she approached Aspen, something felt different. The town seemed heavier, as if everyone sensed that something dark was about to come to light. She went straight to the police station, where Officer Miller greeted her with visible concern. Hannah, I'm glad you're here, Amanda said. Sincerely, we've found some troubling things about Dr. Bennett. So have I, Hannah replied. A friend of Liam's remembered seeing a car pick him up the night he vanished, right in front of the Bennett's house. Amanda took note, exchanging a tense glance with Marcus Flores. We need to talk to Eleanor Bennett, she said. She may be the key to all of this. When Eleanor arrived at the station, she looked fragile and small, almost ghost-like. Amanda chose her words carefully, sensing her emotional state. Eleanor, I need you to tell me everything you remember about your father's behavior back then. It could help us solve this. Eleanor wrung her hands, visibly shaking. My father was secretive. He always kept things hidden, especially when it came to his teenage patients. But I was scared of him, Officer Miller. Scared? Why? Eleanor exhaled shakily. I can't explain it exactly. It was like he had two sides, one public, respectable, and one private, dark. Liam used to come over often, but I was told not to interact with him. My father didn't want me interfering. Did you notice anything strange the night of September 15th, 2009? Eleanor tensed. He was acting weird, really agitated. I was in my room when I heard him leave, and he didn't return until very late. He ordered me to clean something right away. His shoes were muddy, maybe even dirty with soil. Amanda shot Marcus a sharp look. Did you ever ask why? I couldn't, she said almost in a whisper. Cleaning was my way of pretending I didn't know anything. My way of scrubbing guilt away. Later that night, investigators returned to the Bennett mansion, combing through every inch with renewed focus. They were convinced something else was still hidden. Down in the basement, Amanda spotted a dusty crate buried behind some empty boxes. She gently cleared it off and slowly lifted the lid. Inside were several old cassette tapes, labeled with dates, that matched the unofficial sessions from Bennett's journal. Marcus, she called quietly, holding one up. Look at this. He took the tapes with care, the air in the basement growing thick with tension. This might finally give us the answers, Amanda said, staring at the tapes with a mix of fear and hope. Everything Bennett did could be on these, Marcus nodded grimly. Then we need to listen to them. But not here. Amanda gently closed the crate and carried it out with the team. As they left the house, both officers had the same feeling. Whatever was on those tapes, it would reveal everything. Inside the forensic analysis room at the Aspen Police Department, the silence was thick as Amanda Miller gently pressed play on the old cassette player. Marcus Flores and a small team of investigators stood nearby, eyes fixed on the speaker. The tape started with a soft crackle. Then came the sound of labored breathing. Then, a voice. Liam Walker's, shaky, frightened, and pleading. Please. Dr. Bennett, let me go. I'm begging you. I just want to go home. Immediately after, Bennett's voice responded, calm but disturbingly cold. Liam, you need to calm down. We've talked about this. You can't leave until the therapy is complete. This isn't therapy, Liam cried. You're not helping me. You're confusing me. I want to go home. Your family doesn't understand what you need. Bennett's tone shifted, more manipulative. Only I can help you. Your fears, your emotions, they have to be controlled. If you run now, you'll never heal. A sudden scuffle broke the audio, rapid footsteps, a struggle, chaos. "Let me go!" Liam screamed, the sounds of a chase filling the room. Then came a sickening, heavy thud, a final noise, followed by a terrible silence. Bennett's panting voice broke through the void. "Liam, Liam, oh God, what have you done? What did you do?" And then the tape cut out. Marcus clenched his jaw. Amanda lowered her head, overwhelmed. "That wasn't therapy," Marcus said softly. "That was emotional abuse. That poor kid." Amanda's fists curled tightly. "How did no one see this? How did he hide it for so long?" "We have to listen to the rest," Marcus replied. "As painful as it is, we need every piece of evidence." Meanwhile, in the Walker family's living room, Hannah sat tense beside her parents. The discovery of the buried skateboard had reopened everything they had tried to suppress for over a decade. Marie looked pale. John barely met anyone's eyes. The silence weighed down until Hannah finally spoke, her voice sharp and trembling. "Why didn't you push harder, Dad? Why did you just accept that Liam was gone?" John looked away. "Hannah, we did everything we could. The police found nothing. But you gave up," she exploded. "Liam deserved more. He deserved the truth." Marie broke down in sobs. John's voice cracked as he answered, "You think we don't relive it every day? You think we don't wonder what would have happened if we'd done more?" "Then help me now," Hannah said, steady and fierce. "Don't turn away this time. Bennett was hiding something. Liam was at that house that night. We have to fight to find the truth." Marie met her daughter's gaze with exhausted but resolute eyes. "We'll do whatever it takes, Hannah. We promise." In the days that followed, Aspen PD interviewed several of Dr. Bennett's former teenage patients. The pattern was chilling. They spoke of invasive techniques, uncomfortable questions, subtle emotional manipulation disguised as therapy. Each testimony painted a picture of a man who crossed ethical lines again and again and got away with it. Amanda. Miller, listening to it all, felt anger building with each account. How had no one stopped him? In her apartment, Eleanor Bennett cleaned obsessively, as she always had. But this time, the news played in the background. Every headline about her father. She couldn't escape it. The radio host's voice buzzed. In the background, accusations now confirmed after journal and audio evidence. Her phone buzzed with a call. She ignored it. She walked to the mirror. Her reflection was pale, drained. Amanda Miller's voice from days before echoed in her head. "Eleanor, you're the key to this." There was something still locked inside her. Something she had buried so deeply it still terrified her. She whispered to her reflection, "How much longer are you going to hide what you know?" The next day, Thomas Reeve arrived at the police station unannounced. His face was lined with tension, but his eyes were determined. "I know something else about Bennett," he told Amanda. "What is it?" "There's a place, outside of Aspen. Remote. He used to go there a lot. I used to bring him saplings and plants for it. He told me it was private, a place to think. I never suspected anything. But now, can you take us there?" Amanda asked quickly. Thomas nodded without hesitation. "Yes, maybe it holds more answers." That same afternoon, Thomas led investigators to a remote patch of forest, surrounded by tall pines and overgrown brush. It looked untouched, like no one had been there in years. "This is it," Thomas said, pointing to a half-hidden shed covered in vines and moss. Amanda and Marcus approached carefully. The old door creaked loudly as they opened it. Inside, dust coated everything: furniture, books, shelves, and photos. Dozens of faded photographs of teenagers in various emotional states pinned to the wall. Amanda's breath caught. "This wasn't just a retreat," Marcus muttered. "It was part of his sessions, the secret ones." Thomas stayed back, overcome. with guilt. He had brought plants to this place, helped Bennett set it up, never questioned anything. As police began photographing every detail, he stood there, facing the truth he had avoided for so many years. That evening, Eleanor couldn't take it anymore. The tension had built to a breaking point. She grabbed her keys and rushed out of her apartment, driving through the familiar streets of Aspen with trembling hands gripping the wheel. Each red light, each quiet street, brought her closer to the moment she had feared for over a decade. She pulled up outside the Walker house and sat there for a moment, her heart pounding. Then she stepped out of the car and walked slowly to the front door. She knocked, 3 soft taps. The door opened to reveal Hannah, her face registering immediate shock. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" Eleanor's voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "Hannah, we need to talk. I know things about Liam, things I should have said a long time ago." Hannah's stomach turned. "What things?" "The night Liam disappeared, I saw something. Something I've kept buried for 12 years, but I can't keep it in anymore. Please, let me tell you everything." Hannah stepped aside and let her in. They both knew what was about to be shared could change everything. Inside, Eleanor sat on the edge of the Walker family couch, her hands trembling, eyes fixed on the floor. The room felt smaller, darker, as if the walls themselves were bracing for what was coming. "Eleanor, tell me what you saw that night," Hannah said, her voice cracking with fear and urgency. Eleanor took a deep breath, struggling to begin. Then, slowly, the words came. "I was in my room, reading, when I heard yelling coming from my father's office. I got up quietly and stood by the door. He was arguing with Liam." She paused, her voice barely a whisper. "Liam was crying. He kept begging my father to leave him alone." Hannah's pulse thundered in her ears. "What were they arguing about? What was your father doing?" Eleanor shivered. "My father. He used strange methods. He treated his patients like experiments, especially the vulnerable ones. He was emotionally manipulating Liam, trying to force things out of him. I think Liam finally realized it and tried to escape." "Escape?" Hannah asked, her voice hoarse. "I opened the door a little more and saw Liam trying to run. My father grabbed his arm. Liam screamed. They struggled, and then Liam broke free and ran toward the front door." Hannah's eyes welled with tears. "What happened next?" Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. "I followed them down the stairs. Liam was almost out, but he tripped on something. I don't know. Maybe a rug, a planter. He fell hard, really hard. His head hit the floor. The room fell into a suffocating silence. Hannah could barely speak. "Did he die right there?" Eleanor nodded slowly, silently crying. I was frozen. My father knelt down, checked his pulse, and then looked at me, coldly. And he said, "This never happened, Eleanor. Do you understand me? No one can ever." "No." Hannah's body tensed with rage and disbelief. "Why didn't you tell anyone? You could have ended our pain years ago." "I know," Eleanor sobbed. "He threatened to ruin my life. Said no one would believe me. That I'd go to prison too." I was terrified. I kept cleaning the house obsessively, trying to wipe away something that couldn't be erased. Hannah stood, pacing, her breath shallow, her hands shaking. "What did your father do with Liam's body?" Eleanor finally looked Hannah in the eye. "He had a hidden place, a forest spot. I never knew exactly where, but that night he left for hours, came back filthy. His shoes were caked with mud." Hannah's chest ached. "I spent years thinking he might still be alive, Eleanor. Years thinking maybe he'd run away or was taken. But this is worse. I carry this guilt every day," Eleanor whispered. "I've tried to forget. I can't. It's always there." Hannah slowly walked back toward her, a cocktail of fury, grief, and sympathy in her eyes. "Do you remember anything that could help us find that place?" "He used to call it the Old Woods, said it was near the mountains. He took patients there sometimes, said it helped with healing, but I never saw it myself." Hannah took a deep breath, steadying herself. You have to tell the police. All of it. Eleanor nodded with determination. I will. I promise. I'm done being silent. Hours later, at the police station, Amanda Miller sat across from Eleanor, taking down her full statement. Marcus spoke with Hannah in a nearby room, connecting every piece of the puzzle. Amanda struggled to stay composed as Eleanor described Bennett's manipulative behavior, his obsession with control, the emotional pressure he placed on patients, and on his own daughter. That secret place, Amanda said. It could be where he buried Liam. We need to find it. Back at the Bennett mansion, Marcus searched the office again, this time more thoroughly. Flipping through a shelf of old medical journals, one thick book caught his attention, just slightly askew. He pulled it free, and a folded piece of paper slipped out and floated to the ground. Marcus opened it carefully. It was covered in symbols, strange codes, and numbers. Amanda, he called out, I think we've got something. She joined him quickly, her eyes scanning the paper. It's encrypted. You think this could be the location Eleanor mentioned? I'm sure of it. It looks like coordinates, some kind of ciphered map. We have to decode this. Amanda nodded. If this leads to where Liam was taken, we may finally be able to bring him home. Night fell over Aspen, and inside the police station, Amanda Miller and Marcus Flores stayed late, hunched over the coded paper found in Bennett's office. After hours of decoding, patterns finally began to emerge. They're coordinates, Marcus said, eyes lighting up. They point to a very specific area in the mountains, a remote patch of forest. Amanda leaned back in her chair, a storm of emotions behind her tired eyes. Then we go. First light. Let's bring him home. At dawn, under a heavy sky threatening rain, a line of police vehicles crept through the gravel roads leading to the edge of the forest. Amanda drove in silence, Marcus beside her, the note folded in his jacket. Behind them, forensic specialists and officers followed, all aware that what they were about to find might bring both closure and heartbreak. When they arrived at the trailhead, Amanda stepped out, her expression hard. Before them stretched a dense, silent forest. The air was still, the trees towering like quiet witnesses. Wind rustled the leaves with a low, warning hiss. Everyone stay alert, Amanda said. This won't be easy. Look for anything out of place. Marcus unfolded the coordinates and began guiding them into the woods. The terrain was rough, low. Branches scratched against their jackets. Mud sucked at their boots, and the further in they went, the heavier the air felt. Like the ground itself remembered what had happened here. After nearly 30 minutes, Marcus stopped at a small, brush-covered hill. This is it, he said, pointing. Right here, Amanda nodded grimly. Start digging. The team moved in. The sound of shovels breaking earth echoed through the silence. It began to drizzle. Soft, steady. Water mixed with dirt, clinging to their hands, their clothes, their faces. Then, got something, a voice called. Everyone froze. Amanda and Marcus rushed over as the forensics team cleared the final layer of soil. There, partially wrapped in a decaying tarp, were the remains of a young boy. Fragments of clothing clung to the bones. Clothing. That matched exactly what Marie and John Walker had described Liam wearing the day he vanished. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. It's him, she said softly. It's Liam. Marcus bowed his head. Officers nearby removed their hats, honoring the boy they had never met, but whose story they now carried forever. A few feet away, hidden behind the last tree line, Hannah stood silently, tears streaming down her face. She had insisted on being there, needed to be there. Eleanor stood beside her, visibly shaken. The officers had allowed them to remain at a respectful distance. The moment Hannah saw the tarp come into view, her knees buckled slightly. Eleanor steadied her. All this time, Hannah whispered. We were so close. Eleanor struggled to speak. My father knew how to hide things, especially from me. Hannah looked at her, truly seeing her now. Not just as a daughter of a monster, but as a broken soul who had finally chosen truth over. Silence. This wasn't your fault, Eleanor. Thanks to you, Liam can finally rest. Later that day, the remains were carefully transferred for official identification. Hannah returned to her childhood home to face the impossible task of telling her parents what had been found. In the Walker living room. She sat between Marie and John, holding their hands tightly. She didn't need to say a word. They knew. Marie broke into sobs, pressing her face into Hannah's shoulder. John sat in stunned silence, his eyes distant and wet. For the first time in 12 years, the unknown had become known. Now, they could finally begin to grieve. That night, Amanda and Marcus stayed behind in the woods, searching the area for anything else Bennett might have hidden. Marcus spotted something, a small bump near the tree roots, nearly buried in wet leaves. Amanda. Over here. He knelt and dug gently. His fingers brushed against something cold, a rusted metal box. He opened it slowly. Inside was a small voice recorder, wrapped in a plastic bag. Amanda's eyes widened. He recorded something. Something he didn't want anyone to find. Marcus looked at her, deadly serious. This may be the last missing piece. They sealed the recorder carefully. The rain had stopped, but the wind whispered through the trees, like a voice too long silenced, now begging to be heard. Inside the forensics lab at the Aspen Police Department, silence reigned. The recorder, recovered from the forest, sat on a clean metal table. Amanda Miller stared at it for several long seconds before pressing play. Marcus. Flora stood beside her, arms crossed tightly over his chest. 2 other officers watched in stillness. A faint static filled the room, followed by shaky breathing. Then the unmistakable, fragile voice of Liam Walker. Please, Dr. Bennett, let me go. I'm begging you. I just want to go home. Amanda closed her eyes, pain flashing across her face. Then came Bennett's reply, calm, manipulative, chilling. Liam, we've been through this. You're not ready. Your family doesn't understand what you're going through. You said this was therapy, but you're just confusing me. Please, I want to go back to my mom, to my sister. They don't know what you need. I do. This process, it's for your own good. Liam's voice cracked. No, I don't want this anymore. I want to go home. You said I could go home. Not yet, Bennett said, his tone tightening. Not until you confront your fear. Now. Tell me about those drawings. They don't mean anything. You know they do, Liam. They're your unconscious telling us the truth. Tell me about the bridge. I said they don't mean anything. I hate this. I hate this. A scuffle erupted in the recording. Fast footsteps. Objects falling. A desperate attempt to flee. Liam, stop. Come back here. Bennett shouted. No. Longer calm. Then a loud crash. The unmistakable sound of a body hitting the ground. A moment of dead silence. Then Bennett's voice, shaken for the first time. Liam? Liam. Oh God, what have you done? What have you done? The tape cut off with a final sharp static pulse. Amanda didn't speak. No one did. Marcus slowly reached over and stopped the recording. His jaw was clenched. Amanda's eyes remained locked on the recorder. He tried to run, she whispered, and Bennett chased him down. And when he fell, Bennett panicked and chose to bury it all instead of calling for help. Marcus nodded gravely. This tape confirms it all. The abuse, the manipulation, the accident, the cover-up. Amanda looked up at him, her voice tight but steady. We finally know the truth. Now, Aspen will too. Back at the Walker home, Hannah sat between her parents as Amanda delivered the full report personally. Marie wept silently. John stared out the window for a long time before saying anything. So, it was an accident? He finally asked. Yes. But it was an accident built on months of manipulation, Amanda replied. He kept Liam isolated, terrified, and then let fear dictate his final actions. Hannah squeezed her mother's hand. We know the truth. Now. That's all Liam ever wanted. Marie looked up, tears in her eyes. Thank you, Amanda. Amanda nodded softly. I'm so sorry it took this long. A few days later, the town of Aspen gathered for a memorial near Maroon Creek Bridge, the place Liam was last seen. Candles lined the railing. Flowers and drawings fluttered in the breeze. Dozens of townspeople, young and old, stood in silence. Hannah stepped forward, holding Liam's worn red skateboard. She gently placed it against the base of the bridge, next to a photo of him smiling, frozen in time. "Rest now, Liam," she whispered. "You're finally home." At the Aspen police station, Eleanor Bennett sat across from Amanda Miller and her attorney. She had just finished giving her full testimony. Everything. The threats, the secrets, the fear. Amanda looked her in the eye, calm but firm. "Eleanor, you've been honest. You cooperated. You helped us find Liam and expose your father's crimes. Because of that, the prosecution has decided not to press charges." Eleanor's lips trembled. For a moment, she couldn't speak. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. She knew many in Aspen would still see her as part of the darkness. But for the first time in her life, she felt free. As she stepped out into the cold air, she didn't feel the weight on her chest anymore. She could breathe. It wasn't redemption, but it was a beginning. Elsewhere in town, Thomas Reeve packed the last of his tools into his old truck. He had made his decision. After decades in Aspen, after years of silence and guilt, he was leaving. He had spoken the truth. Finally. And now, he needed distance from the place that haunted him. He was headed to a small town in Wyoming, far from the mountains that had buried too many memories. As he climbed into his truck, he looked at the rearview mirror one last time, at the mansion, the trees, the house where it all began, and whispered, "I'm sorry, kid." Then he drove off. The road ahead open and quiet. Weeks passed, and Hannah Walker began writing. In her apartment in Denver, surrounded by Liam's drawings, court documents, and old photos, she poured her heart into a series of investigative articles titled "The Unspoken: What Silence Hides." Each article chronicled a part of the case: Liam's disappearance, the therapy sessions, the cover-up, and finally, the discovery. She detailed the systemic failures, the emotional manipulation, and the need for oversight in therapy practices with minors. The series spread quickly, picked up by national outlets, triggering debates about abuse of power, patient protection, laws, and trauma-informed care. For Hannah, it was more than journalism. It was her way of saying, Liam mattered. Liam was more than a missing boy. He was my brother. And now the world knows his name. During a conference in Denver, after Hannah presented her full report, a woman approached her in tears. "My son, he also saw Dr. Bennett," she said, voice trembling. "Your story helped him open up. We never knew what he went through. But now, he's healing." Hannah embraced her, eyes glassy. "That's why I did this, so no one else has to go through it alone." Not long after, Hannah returned to Aspen. She walked into her brother's bedroom, still preserved after all these years. She sat on his bed, picked up his sketchbook, and smiled through her tears. Looking out the window, toward the mountains, she finally felt a quiet peace settle over her. She opened a blank notebook and began to write. Forgotten cases. Unanswered. Injustices. Stories that demand to be told. And with that line, she found her purpose. She would tell the stories of the silenced. She would give a voice to those who were forgotten. Back at the police station, Amanda Miller and Marcus Flores stood in the evidence room. Among the final items collected was one of Liam's drawings, his handwriting barely legible in the corner. It read, "One day, I'll be able to tell my story." Amanda looked at Marcus, tears welling in her eyes. "He did," she whispered. "Thanks to everyone who refused to give up." Marcus gently closed the file marked Liam Walker for the last time. The town of Aspen could finally begin to heal, and, for Hannah, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a mission born from grief, but fueled by love, and in that, Liam's voice would echo forever.